Alright, so let's take a look at our next problem, problem number 3. Again, the directions are saying simplify. Similar to problem 2, but not identical. See, the denominator is similar. We're going to use that idea of a conjugate again, but the numerator, look, it's a binomial. Here it was a monomial. So this is going to require us to use 2 tables to get our answer. So it's longer, but not necessarily harder. We're violating the rules of having that radical 2. We can't have a radical in the denominator. So the technique is to multiply this by the number 1. But we want to be clever in how we write the number 1. We use the idea of the conjugate. The conjugate of a binomial, it comes in and looks at your operation and does the opposite. So instead of addition, we have subtraction. Everything else is the same. Now, if we need this fraction to be the number 1, the denominator and the numerator have to be the same. So now I'm ready to multiply these fractions together. And multiplying fractions is not that difficult. Adding and subtracting fractions is more difficult because we need a common denominator. But here, we're just going to multiply straight across in the denominator, and we're going to multiply straight across in the numerator. So let's make some tables because we have a binomial times a binomial. In this numerator, let's take this first binomial and write it on the side of our table. And the second binomial across the top of our table. Let's draw in a horizontal and vertical line. Now, when we multiply, well, we just take 3 times the square root of 5. When I have 2 radicals, I can just multiply underneath the radical. The negative sign is going to be out there, and 5 times 2 is 10. Now here, again, we just have 3 times radical 3. A positive times a negative is going to be a negative number, and since I have a radical times another radical, I can do that multiplication underneath the radical. 3 times 2 is 6. So this is going to be my numerator. And I look and I see that I can't simplify the square root of 10 because we know that the square root of 10 breaks down to 2 times 5. And when I'm taking square roots, I need a pair. I need a pair of numbers. And we can't break down the 6. 2 times 3, I can't simplify the square root of 6. So these are all unlike terms. So we just start writing them down and we can't combine them. We've got 3 radical 5 minus radical 10 plus 3 times radical 3 minus the square root of 6. So that's my numerator. Now my denominator is going to turn out to be a little bit easier to multiply because they're conjugates. We pick the conjugate because it will clear the radical. Right now we're breaking the rule. We can't have a square root in the denominator. When we multiply these together, these square roots are going to cancel and we won't have a radical in the denominator. So let's make a table. My first binomial, let's put it on the side, and the other binomial across the top. We'll do a horizontal and a vertical line. So let's come in and multiply and get the inside entries of our table. Well, 3 times 3 is 9. Be careful. You know, lots of students, and I myself do it a lot, I'll think 3 times 3, but I'll write 6 because I'll add them. You have to make sure that you're not making those type of silly mistakes. We simply multiply a positive 3 times a negative radical 2. And here, look at this. We have a positive 3 times radical 2. These are equal and opposite. When you add them together, the positive and negative are going to cancel each other out. We have a positive number times a negative number. It's going to be negative. When you have square root 2 times square root 2, hey, that's square root 4. But we know that's 2. Well, these, when we add them together, they canceled out. When we add the 9 plus the negative 2, that's just 7. There's our final answer. You know, and we can check this on a calculator. This fraction, I claim, is going to be the same as this fraction. Alright, so let's bring up the calculator. We need to put parentheses around the numerator and around the denominator when we key it in to tell them, hey, use this as the whole numerator, not just part of it. And 3 plus the square root of 2. So there's my decimal number, 0.89894, so on. Let's see if this other fraction is the same decimal number. We need parentheses around this whole numerator. I'm afraid to try to type this in faster. I know it's not fun to watch a video of somebody typing numbers into a calculator. Not quite the Avengers or Iron Man, is it? But the Iron Man character, Tony Stark, went to MIT, which is an engineering school. That character is incredibly good at math. Same decimal number. So I believe that this is the correct answer. Alright, so let's move on to the next problem.